if you had some really exciting news to tell somebody, how would you tell them that? Especially at the moment when you might not be able to see them and tell them face to face. How would you share your exciting news? Maybe you're thinking you could pick up the phone and give them a call and tell them, or you could borrow your mum's mobile and send them a quick text message. Maybe you would FaceTime them or have a chat with them on Zoom. It's fantastic, isn't it, that we've got all sorts of wonderful technology available. That means we can keep in contact with people and share exciting news. We love to share it when good things happen, don't we? But I wonder how you think people shared exciting news 2,000 years ago. Maybe you can just have a little chat about that amongst yourselves now. Maybe your teacher can just pause the video for a moment while you think about how good news was shared 2,000 years ago. So, hopefully you've come up with some ideas. Maybe you thought you could send a letter, because they did write letters 2,000 years ago and they could be taken. It might take a little while to get there, but the good news would arrive. Or maybe you've thought about the fact that they would just have to travel to tell each other, so news would pass from one person to the next and from one village to the next, and you'd eventually get to hear about it. It might not be so quick, but good news, exciting news, always seems to travel fast. Now, today we're going to have another story from the Bible. It's a story that I believe is true, so I want you to have a think about it as you listen to the words that I am telling you from the Bible. Do you think this story is true? Or is this a story that you think, well, that couldn't possibly have happened? Or maybe you're thinking, wow, I wish it did happen, but I just don't know. That's okay. I'm going to tell you what I believe is a true story, and you're going to listen to it and have a think for yourself and decide whether you think it is true. In our story, we meet a man who's an important man. He's called a royal official, so he works in the royal palace. And although he's got an important job, he's sad and worried. He's sad because his little boy is feeling very poorly. In fact, he's so poorly that the man is worried that his son is going to die. That's sad, isn't it? So obviously he wants to do something to help him, but he just doesn't know what he can do to help his little boy to get better, until he hears some exciting news. He hears that Jesus is in the village of Cana. Now, Cana is a village 20 miles away from where the royal official lives, so that's quite a long way. But Cana is the place where Jesus did his first miracle. Do you remember we learnt about that? Jesus turned the water into wine at a wedding party. Now, I'm wondering, how does the royal official know that Jesus is in Cana, which is 20 miles away? It's not like he's turned on the television and heard a news broadcast. Jesus is back. Nobody's been able to send him a quick text message to say, hey, do you remember Jesus, the one who did the miracle when he turned the water into wine? He's back in the village. So news must have travelled quite fast. Maybe it was like this. There's a person in Cana who spots Jesus and says to his friend, oi, do you remember that's the chap that my mate John told me about? John was with him at the wedding when he turned the water into wine. That amazing thing he did. It's Jesus, he's back. And then the man's mate says to his neighbour, oi, my neighbour says his mate John's friend John said that Jesus is back. Jesus, you know, the one who turned the water into wine. And then their neighbour runs down the street to his granny and says, hey, granny, you know that exciting story we heard about Jesus turning the water into wine? Jesus is back, he's in the village, he's just up the road, my neighbour told me. And then the granny lifts up her skirt and runs to the next village to tell her daughter, hey, do you remember I told you about that man who turned water into wine? He's back in our village, come and see now. But before she goes back to see, she tells her neighbour. And so on and so on and so on. Until 20 miles away, the royal official hears, do you remember that man, that amazing man, Jesus, who did that miracle, turning the water into wine? He's back in Cana. Well, the royal official decides he's going to go and see Jesus. He can't hop in his car, can't get a bus or a train or a taxi. Remember, this is 2,000 years ago. He has to walk, or maybe run, 20 miles to go to see Jesus. His son is desperately ill in bed, but he chooses to leave him so that he can go to see Jesus. Now, I wondered why he did that. You know, Jesus has done something amazing. He turned water into wine. But I wonder what's going through the man's head as he walks that 20 miles to Jesus. What is he hoping that Jesus is going to be able to do? Well, he gets to Cana, he finds Jesus, and he says, "Hey, please, will you come to my house? My son is really ill. I need you to help him." And Jesus turns to him and says, "Go, your son will live." Well, wow, that wasn't quite what the man was expecting. Go? What? Go home? I've just walked 20 miles to get here, Jesus, and now you're telling me just to go back? If it was me, I'd be wanting Jesus to come with me, at least come and see the boy, see what's wrong with him. But Jesus simply says, "Go, your son will live." Well, the Bible tells us that the royal official simply trusted Jesus. He turned round and walked back home again. Now, it was a long walk. He'd walked 20 miles to get there. He's probably had to go maybe overnight, have some rests, some breaks. He's got to go back again now. By the time he gets back, it's the next day. And as he comes towards his house, one of the servants rushes out to meet him and says, "So glad that you're back. Guess what's happened? Your boy is better. He's alive. He's well. He's not got poorly anymore." And the man says to him, "What time did my son get better?" And the servant says, "Well, it was about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon while you were out trying to find Jesus in Cana." And the royal official suddenly realises 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, that was the exact time that he had been stood next to Jesus in the village 20 miles away. The exact time that Jesus said, "Go home, your son will live." So the man was with Jesus 20 miles away. His son was back at home lying poorly in bed. And yet when Jesus spoke the words, "Your son will live," his son got better. Wow, that's amazing. That's a miracle. You know, if we want to get better, we have to go to the doctor or the chemist or the hospital. They look at us. They work out what's wrong. They touch us and poke us and listen to things. And they work out what's wrong by being with us. And then they give us medicine or help us in some way. Jesus didn't do that. He hadn't even seen the boy. And yet he helped him to get better. This is amazing. And all the people in the royal official's house thought it was amazing too. His friends and family, his servants, they all decided to put their trust in Jesus. They believed in who Jesus was because of this amazing miracle. But let's just go back a moment. When the royal official believed in Jesus and trusted him while he was in Cana 20 miles away, that was before the miracle had happened. That was before he'd seen him do this amazing thing. So the royal official decided to trust Jesus when there was no proof that he was going to be able to help his son. That's amazing. That's real faith. Do you know, some people say to me, "Oh, well, you know, if Jesus was here now and did an amazing miracle, then I'd believe in Jesus." And maybe if Jesus was in your classroom now and did something really amazing and you saw him with your own eyes and saw him do an amazing miracle, you'd say, "Now I believe in who Jesus is." But the royal official believed without seeing the miracle. And the Bible tells us that we need to believe without seeing the miracles. Jesus did lots of miracles in which he helped people to get better. And sometimes when he did those miracles, he said to them, I've made your eyes get better. I've opened your eyes. I've stopped you being blind. I've performed that miracle. But now you need to open your eyes to see who I am, to understand who I am. Jesus wanted them not just to be physically well, but to be able to be spiritually well, to realise who Jesus was. And of course, this miracle helps us again to remember that Jesus is God's Son. Jesus could perform this amazing miracle and make the boy get better because he is God's Son. So I wonder, do you believe that miracle or not? Do you remember I said at the beginning that I thought this was a true story? I wonder, are you sat there thinking, wow, that's amazing, I trust Jesus? Or are you thinking, there's no way that could have possibly happened. That's just not going to be true. Or maybe you're still not sure. That's all okay. Just think about it and think, if I do trust Jesus, am I going to trust him to look after me and care about me even though I can't see him? As if he's 20 miles away from us, but we know that he can still work miracles in our lives. I'm going to say a short prayer now, so if you'd like to put your hands together and close your eyes and just sit as still as you can and as quietly as you can. And at the end of the prayer, you can join in with saying Amen with me. Dear God, thank you that Jesus helped the poorly boy to get better. Thank you that his dad believed in who you were and trusted you. Please help us to trust you as we think about the miracles that you did. Amen. Well, thank you for listening to that. I am going to tell you about another miracle the next time I see you. So bye for now.